So today we have a special guest on the show. Definitely want you all to hear from him and hear the things that he has to say. And I'm going to pass it to Mr. E. Will for the introduction.
All right, we're sitting here with Mr. David A. Pride, who is a professional motivational speaker and a marketing strategist. He is the Chief Relationships Officer of SocialImpressions.net. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, why don't you introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are, what you do, and enlighten us.
Yeah. So I'm David Pride, as you said, at David A. Pride on Twitter if you're looking for me, or any other social network.
Smooth, love the plug.
That's right. You'll hear it a few more times before I'm done. And yeah, like you said, I own a social media agency, but also do a lot of youth motivational speaking at high schools and colleges, helping young people navigate long seasons of setback and challenge. So those periods in time in life where they feel like things can't get any worse, and then you get punched in the gut one more time, and you're thinking, man, what the heck am I going to do next? And that's when I try to work with young people and help them figure out ways to push forward when everything's pushing back.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because that's something that I'm passionate about. I kind of went through that in my high school years, dealing with depression off and on and stuff. So what are some of the things that you tell high school students to get them through those moments and things like that?
Yeah, there's a few main things that I talk with them about. One of the things right off the bat that I like to encourage young people to do is find a great mentor and find someone who's doing something in their life that's similar to where you picture yourself being, or doing something with their life that's what you want to be doing, and reach out to them and not shy away from feeling like, oh man, this guy's already made it. There's no way he's going to spend time with me. And I think lots of times young people forget that when you're under 20 years old, you're still a cute kid to an adult. And so you can reach out to someone who's successful, and all you are is a super motivated young person who wants to hang out with someone who's successful. So they're not going to look at you and say, get away from me, you're annoying. They're going to see you as a young person who's looking to move forward in life. And a lot of people are down with helping young people who want to move forward. Yeah,
I mean, that's actually a very good point. At E and I, we go to the same church, and they talk about they call it Batman and Robin, that everyone needs that Robin needs that Batman, and to some extent, to a large extent, the Batman needs a Robin too. Like a lot of people that you're talking about, they want to have someone to be able to mentor and to be able to pour into and to be able to give back.
Exactly. I learned the lesson back when I was younger. My parents always used to ask me, what do you want to do with your life? And I would always say, I don't know. I want to be rich. I want to help people. And my dad is an engineer. So for him, everything was either going to be a doctor, preacher, dentist, or an engineer. And none of us boys wanted to do that. And so my mom used to hear me talking about, I don't know, I just want to be wealthy and own my own business someday. And so when I was 16, my mom found an article in the paper, and she cut it out, and it was written by a really wealthy guy in my town. And he was talking about how he didn't understand why people didn't reach out to him more for mentorship. And so I was 16, I wrote him a letter, and I said, look, you're the richest guy in my town. I see you literally driving around in a purple Rolls Royce. I was wondering if you'd be willing to spend time with me and teach me how to become wealthy. And at 16 years old, he called me up one day and said, David, call me when I get back into Maine and we can hang out and I'll teach you everything I know. And so began my mentorship relationship with him for the past 17 years.
Man, that's so important. And especially for our kids, we mentor a lot of inner city youth as well. And they look for that also. But a lot of times for them, the richest person in their neighborhood is a drug dealer or is somebody that's doing something illegal and things like that. And they look at those as the examples, because I think it's something innate that children, teenagers look for someone to aspire to become. I think that's something that's very important. And I don't think enough people who are successful legally, do that and participate in that. And I think so that's something that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important for people to realize that the only way to measure success isn't just financially.
Yes.
And so kids get caught up in like who's wearing the Rollie, or who's doing these crazy things.
Absolutely.
Well, man, success is who's the guy with a tight family who's got their back when the things are down. There's a lot of ways to measure success that have nothing to do with how thick your wallet is.
Oh, absolutely.
You better say that.
Absolutely, man. I think that's so true. And we see that a lot in this business. I just a few episodes ago, I talked about a buddy of mine who had committed suicide, and he was a guy who you thought was living the American dream, right? He had the money, he had the cars, he had homes in different cities, but he still was unhappy. And I think you're absolutely right that we chase, and it's not even just with children. I think it's with our society in general. We think that the accumulation of more stuff is what leads to happiness. And that's not the case, because when you get that stuff and you see that you're still not happy, it brings you down even more.
Yep. Absolutely. It's not, you can't find your happiness based on money or finances. There's so many things that bring happiness that have nothing to do with money or Hollywood dreams. So
absolutely. So what we're going to do is, we got a minute left, so we're going to go to break, and then we're going to come back. Do you mind sticking around for another segment?
No, my pleasure.
Cool, because this was kind of quick, and we want to dig into a lot of stuff.
Yes, I have a couple things I want to ask.
Okay.
All right, me too.
And we are still here with David Pride, the Chief Relationships Officer for SocialImpressions.net, and a motivational speaker, Miss Lavish. Your question.
So just wanted to get into a little bit of your background. Now, I know that you are a cancer survivor. Congratulations. That is awesome.
Yes. Awesome.
So, is that kind of what got you going towards the motivational speeches, as far as what you were going through? Tell us just a little bit about, how you got to where you're at as far as motivational speaking goes.
Yeah. So my cancer had a little bit to do with it. I had Hodgkin's disease lymphoma when I was 19. It was completely unexpected. I was back in the day, I used to work out a lot. Now I try to only lift like Doritos and Pringles. But back in the day, I lifted things that were heavier than that.
You do too much of lifting those.
I increased weight by dipping it in ranch.
Ranch goes on everything.
Right, exactly. So, but I was in Texas for a completely unrelated surgery, and they found cancer from my neck to my groin. And so it was certainly a real eye opener. I was at the time I was playing college soccer, best shape of my life, and had really no idea how to handle it. And so, but what was interesting is what I found is going through cancer and chemotherapy and the radiation, and the numerous things after that is, there's times in life when setbacks happen, and we can either give up, or we can start making really awful decisions and turn to other things like, drugs, and some people turn to all kinds of things to get themselves through those situations. But what I found is when you're pushing through those experiences, there's a reason for it. And I truly believe that the reason why we go through these experiences and we go through really awful times of setback is because there's going to be times in life when we meet other people who are going through the same exact thing. And if you've been through that thing, then you can talk with that person. You can put your arm around them, and you can share with them the lessons you've learned by pushing through whatever it was that you were dealing with. And so as I was dealing with cancer, it was certainly a major thing in my life, but I would say one of the larger influences in my life was my mother grew up in inner city New Jersey. She grew up in a sexually and emotionally abusive home. And as a young man, she used to share with me stories about how she overcame that and how she worked her way through life in a family that literally her mom didn't love her, and her mom wasn't afraid to tell her that. And my mom used to talk with me about how she overcame that and how mentors became so important to her and books became so important to her, even though her mother didn't want her reading them. And so as I got older and began looking at things I wanted to be doing, I wound up in the corporate speaking world and doing social media seminars and things like that. And much like I said, finances doesn't determine how successful you are. I can make a heck of a lot more money out there teaching business owners how to grow their companies with Facebook and Twitter and all these things.
Right.
But the fulfillment factor isn't there. And when I can speak to a crowd of young people and share with them ways that they can deal with the emotions that they're experiencing in a moment that seems like it just can't get any darker, that return on the investment of my time is significantly higher than any bag of money some person could hand me.
So I have an aunt now. She's struggling with cancer. She had breast cancer. They removed it. It came back. Didn't come back to the breast. They're not sure where it came back to. So what advice would you give somebody who is going through that, who I can tell her spirit is down when I talk to her? She's just not the same. So what's something that you would, say to maybe motivate that person?
Yeah. There's a few things. One is I found, especially when it's a health issue, people tend to just keep it inside because it's so personal, right? I remember when I had cancer, I've always been very outgoing, and people ask me how I'm doing with my cancer. I say, I'm doing great. They say, well, how are you really doing? And then I might start telling them, and the next thing you know, they're looking at their watch because they didn't want the real answer. Right. And that happens enough times, and you stop telling people the truth. You just shut down,
right?
Yeah.
Right? Because you just assume no one actually cares. They're not asking because they want to hear if I was throwing up today. They're just asking for a dinner table topic, right? But there are people who do truly care. And I think one of the first steps of dealing with something so challenging, whether it be a health issue or a family issue, is finding someone that you can talk with who has an unbiased opinion, whether it's a professional or maybe a loved one or someone from your church family that you can sit with and pour your heart out to, who can listen to you. And then finding other people within the community who have dealt with something either similar or the same thing, and having friends and relationships that you can talk with and share with people. It's uncomfortable at the beginning, but what I found is if you don't deal with it, it's going to deal with you. And so you either deal with these problems and start talking about them, or it's going to be built up inside of you, and it's just going to make the journey so much harder.
Yeah.
E.
Now, suicide is a very touchy see, look, I can't even talk already. Subject, topic, whatever you want to call it with me. My brother committed suicide a few years back. And so have you ever had it where after one of your motivational speeches, have you ever had a student come up to you and seek you out and say, hey, I've been thinking about, taking my life? And if so, like what would you or have you said to somebody in that type of scenario?
Yeah. So this happened to me actually not too long ago. I was speaking at a high school in Massachusetts, and a young man came up to me, and he was pretty affected by the presentation, and he shared with me that he was just taken from his home from an abusive situation, and he didn't really understand the value in his own life from things he'd been told. And there's a few things. A is if it happens to me at a school, whenever I do a seminar at a school, I always have a key contact person there, because I can't be a counselor to 1,100 kids every week, So that's, but in normal life, if it were someone I knew, I encourage people to step back from the situation and find someone they can confide in, and to find someone they can talk about. Trying to deal with things on your own, it's so ostracizing, but worse than that, it takes you out of the situation where you're like, man, this only happens to me. I'm weird. Like, I feel so bad. I feel so awful right now. And I'm the only one who knows how this feels. But the only reason I think that is because I won't talk with anybody. And so if I were to go out and be open about, man, I feel like crap. I don't think there's any point in my life. I don't think there's any reason for me to continue. I'm just going to end it right now. When if we step back just for a second and say, man, I wonder if there are other people who are dealing with this. Who's someone else I could go to? For me, I have a church family I can turn to and talk with, and a family of faith that I go to and visit with and can share with. But I would say if someone is sitting out there and they're thinking these types of thoughts, and then the first step is you need to find someone you can trust, that you can talk with, and be prepared that that person may let you down at some point in the conversation. They may let you down a couple days from now. That doesn't mean you never talk again. So often our hearts get cold to people because they hurt us once. And then we say, you know what, screw it. I'm not going to share my feelings with anybody because this guy didn't have the response I wanted. Therefore, no one can tell me anything. When the fact is, people are humans, right? We get let down by people because they're human just like we are. And so we can't just let one person that we may have shared something with who maybe didn't have the reaction we were hoping for stop us from giving someone else a chance to help us out, because someone else out there has been in the same position that we're in when we're in that dark moment, and being willing to talk about it and openly talk about it with someone can make such a huge difference for navigating those times.
Absolutely. So we're talking with David Pride, Chief Relationships Officer from socialimpressions.net. And on that note, let me ask you a question about this. What is the impact of social media to what a lot of these teenagers are dealing with and things like that in their social circles and all that kind of stuff? Because I think now a lot of these younger kids are dealing with things in a way that we didn't necessarily have to deal with because everything is so public and out there.
Yeah, man, it's tough because what happens on social media is we all see each other's highlight reels. And so like you look at my social media stream and I'm not going to tell you that my dog was sick and I can't afford to bring it to the vet. And so I'm trying to find some homeopathic remedy with mint juleps and chocolate ice cream. Like, man, what can I get at Walmart to make this dog better? And so, because we only see each other's highlight reels. And so I think for young people, it's such a challenge because all of their friends' lives look perfect, right? Their Instagram feed is perfect. Their Snapchat feed is perfect. And it seems like nobody else is going through these things. And we get into our own little silos of, well, man, my life doesn't nearly stack up to this person's life. And I think social media can have two effects. One is it can magnify that negative and it can make things worse. But two, it can provide such an amazing support system where if young people are honest with each other and they're open to talking with their family, it can be a conversation starter,
Absolutely.
not where things end.
Yeah, social media is a gift and a curse in some ways,
Exactly.
depending on how you use it. Miss Lavish.
So off air, we were talking about your trip to, what's the name of it? Iqaluit.
You keep stealing Eric's questions.
I know. Every time he's like, gah, 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 gah. So, and you were talking about your Facebook page, Hope for the Arctic.
Yes.
Just tell us a little bit about it and how people can follow and possibly get involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. They can find it at facebook.com/Hope for the Arctic. It's a page I started about 2 years ago when I was visiting Iqaluit, Nunavut, which is a country just below the Arctic Circle. Where it has one of the highest suicide rates in the world, where if you want to make your family a fresh chopped salad, it's going to cost you, $35 a pound for the salad. Just absolutely incredible. And when I was up there visiting and hearing the stories of people who felt like they were totally alone and felt like no one knew about them, I wanted to do something about it. And that's where Hope for the Arctic came. And now we have a community of thousands of people from around the world that are there to support people in the Arctic and also let them know that they're not just hanging out up there alone in a cold place.
Nice.
Awesome. Let everybody know once again, sir, how to get in contact with you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me on everything at David A. Pride. And if you want to learn about my speaking, you can go to davidpridespeaks.com.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show, man. This has been a really awesome conversation, really dope experience.
Really
man.
great.
Yes,
Thank you.
Definitely.
Really appreciate it.